They died with secrets. They were buried with pain. But death was not the end. They walk where the living dare not tread. Echoes of the forgotten, shadows of regret, forever bound between worlds. Some seek peace, others seek revenge. But all of them seek you. Tonight, I invite you to listen closely to the footsteps in empty halls, to the whispers beyond locked doors, and the cold breath on the back of your neck when no one is there. My name is Michael, and listen closely as I explore the chilling mythology and true stories of ghosts. Not legends, not imagination, but the restless dead that refuse to stay buried. This is Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast. Season 2, The Snapdragon Files, Episode 23, File Number 119. So settle in, turn up the volume, and whatever you do, don't look behind you. The history of ghosts stretch across nearly every culture and civilization, rooted in humanity's fear of death and desire to understand the afterlife. Ghosts are typically defined as the spirits of the dead who remain on Earth, often due to unfinished business, trauma, or improper burial. Nearly all cultures have some version of ghost lore. In ancient Egypt, they believed the soul, composed of multiple parts, like the Ka and Ba, could linger, if not properly honored or if disturbed. Mesopotamians feared angry dead spirits and practiced elaborate burial rituals to appease them. The ancient Greeks held that spirits wandered if they weren't given proper burial rites and festivals that honored the dead. Romans believed in lemurs, malevolent spirits, and Manes, benevolent ancestors. They also held festivals to exorcise restless spirits. In China, they have a rich ghost culture tied to ancestor worship. Hungry ghosts are spirits tormented by greed or improper death. The Hungry Ghost Festival offers them food and prayers. Japan features the Yuri, spirits often depicted in white funeral clothing with long black hair. These stories usually involve tragic female ghosts seeking revenge. And Hinduism speaks of spirits who didn't transition properly. They use certain rituals to help guide souls to peace. In medieval Europe, with the rise of Christianity, ghosts were seen as souls in purgatory, seeking prayers to ascend to heaven. Some were considered demonic illusions, others reminders to live virtuously. Monks wrote tales of wandering spirits appearing in monasteries or graveyards, demanding restitution or warning of impending doom. In the Victorian era, ghost stories exploded in popularity, mirroring the rise of spiritualism, a belief that the dead could communicate with the living via seances and mediums. Paranormal investigations, such as ghost hunting shows and haunted house legends, are modern expressions of the ancient beliefs. There are many different ghost archetypes. such as the White Lady, a female spirit mourning lost love or betrayed trust. She can be found in Latin America, Europe, and Asia. Poltergeists, noisy, often malicious spirits that cause physical disturbances. They bring with them mayhem and sometimes death. Residual hauntings, repetitive, non-interactive apparitions, like a recording of trauma that plays over and over again. And shadow people, dark, humanoid shapes with unclear origins, often linked to sleep paralysis and malevolent energy. Ghosts have always been here, and my great uncle Samuel's file is proof. This paranormal file is titled The Legend of Anneliese. Anneliese was a young German woman who boarded the Munich to Milan Express in 1943. Her fiancé, an Italian deserter, had promised to meet her in Milan, but she never arrived. They found her weeks later, dead in the compartment, stabbed and horribly disfigured. The suspect was never caught, and her bloody body was buried hastily as the war raged on. Since then, Anneliese's spirit haunts the compartment number 13. They say she slays anyone who dares rest in her place. She whispers her name before she kills. Some say hoping someone will remember her. Others say she's only pretending to remember yours. Either way, the spirit of Anneliese has the most documented civilian kills of any spirit or phantom. Unbelievably, the train still runs. The compartment is still used. And Anneliese still waits, forever locked in a terrifying night she can't escape. It is said that when the train passes through the Alps and the wind grows cold, don't answer the knock at your compartment door, especially if it's your name Anneliese whispers. Now, before my great uncle Sam and his team made contact with the infamous Anneliese ghost, they interviewed her last victim, and this is what she described. The train from Munich to Milan glided along the narrow tracks beneath a silver moon, cutting through dark mountains and whispering forests. Within its steel body, passengers settled into the quiet rhythm of the ride, except those unfortunate enough to be assigned to compartment 13, Anneliese's compartment. That night, it was given to a young traveler named Celeste, a history student riding solo on her way to visit her boyfriend in Florence. The train was full that night, every seat taken. The conductor, a man with trembling hands and weary eyes, tried to suggest she change seats, but couldn't explain why. She didn't understand. He warned her, don't open the door, even if someone knocks, especially if they whisper your name. Nervous, Celeste gave a polite smile, assuming superstition, but she couldn't be more wrong. After midnight, as the train passed beneath the black shadows of alpine tunnels, the compartment turned cold, too cold. unnaturally cold. Celeste awoke with a jolt. Her breath clouded the air like smoke, and before she had a chance to wake up, a knock came. 3 soft taps. They were deliberate, but haunting, and they were followed by a whisper. "Let me in, Celeste." Celeste's heart stuttered. She hadn't given her name to anyone on the train. A chill crawled up her spine. The knock came again, this time louder. "Celeste." Managing to find some courage, Celeste found herself more curious than nervous. She slowly peeked through the peephole and found no one. She slowly sat down again, and before she could catch her breath, the lights flickered and dimmed. The walls pulsed with a low groan, as if the metal was breathing. The air inside the compartment grew colder and felt thick inside her lungs, and from the corner of the compartment, a jagged figure stepped out of the wall. It was a woman, faint and pale. She seemed to be wrapped in tattered 1940s dress, soaked with blood down the front. Her skin was gray and cracking, her eyes hollow and sad. Her mouth moved, but it had no sound, her lips pulling together over and over. Then finally, 2 words slithered out in a horrifying warning. "My seat." Before Celeste could scream, the ghost of Annalise lunged forward, her face distorting into something monstrous. Cold fingers wrapped around Celeste's neck as she was thrown backwards, smacking her head against the door of the compartment. That was the last thing that Celeste remembered. When she awoke in the morning, she found she had a mild concussion and her clothes had been shredded, almost exposing her completely naked. The authorities soon followed, trying to make sense of her story and reaching out for a specific kind of help. My great-uncle and his team assessed her story, searched the train immediately. During the day, everything seemed fine. There was no damage, no physical evidence of the attack, other than her tattered clothes. Some locals had accused Celeste of having too much to drink and faking the attack. But after 5 minutes of talking with her, my great-uncle Sam knew she was telling the truth. He and his team of paranormal soldiers have danced with ghosts and spirits in the past, and he knew that they were in for a long night. Now, my Uncle Sam had called in a couple specialists that dealt with this kind of paranormal activity. Sergeant Mercer, a demolitions and binding ritual specialist. He once blew up a poltergeist-infested bunker in Ukraine. And Corporal Tashi, a Tibetan medium and psychic interpreter who cloaked himself in a rosary made of iron and obsidian. Just after midnight, the squad entered the train. Its systems isolated and its cabin powered by backup generators to avoid interference. The corridor outside compartment 13 felt colder than the surrounding cars. According to the readings, it was at least 12 degrees Celsius colder. Their state-of-the-art EMF readers spiked immediately. They opened Annalise's compartment door, and inside, frost clung to the walls like rot. Blood still stained the floor from where Celeste had been attacked. Corporal Tashi muttered a protection chant under his breath as Sergeant Mercer deployed the spectral containment net, a glowing lattice of rune-charged cables and arcane tech designed to trap spiritual matter. My great-uncle Sam huffed, as he was always uncomfortable with this style of gear. But before he had any time to prepare himself, Annalise appeared. She didn't scream. She wept. Her form materialized slowly, wet, trembling, her black hair clinging to her face like thick algae. Her eyes were now twin voids. They locked onto the soldiers with a sorrowful fury that defied time. She whispered in a deadly echo, "Why are you here?" Frank stepped forward, reciting a binding phrase that he had learned in Latin. He tried to say it firmly, but didn't fully believe it, and his voice gave his uncertainty away. Annalise didn't recoil. She laughed, a terrible, echoing, liquid gurgle, and with a shriek, she shattered the net in a pulse of blue-black light that flickered, then flashed to nothing. Sergeant Mercer immediately screamed out and collapsed to the floor. His high-tech visor melted into his face. His blood froze in his veins before anyone could reach him. With a burst of cold air, my great-uncle Sam and Corporal Tashi were thrown across the room. The lights exploded, and the compartment door slammed shut. Trapped inside, the pair switched to thermal and prayer-based defense. Corporal Tashi hurled a binding grenade, a hollow iron sphere filled with salt, mercury, and sanctified ash. It exploded in a flash of searing white light, pushing Annalise back and blinding both of them for a split second. But it didn't stop the ghost. Instead, she split. From her central body, dozens of slithering arms erupted, each reaching out, trying to stab or grab at my great-uncle and his partner. Corporal Tashi screamed as one of the tentacles merged into him, filling his mind with whispering regrets in a German language. The pain was unbearable as his mind imploded in on itself. His nose bled, gushing blood, and he collapsed. His heart stopped before he even hit the floor. My great-uncle forced open the emergency door with the last detonator he had. He stumbled into the corridor, but Annalise followed. Quickly and devastating, she screamed like a banshee soaked in blood and vengeance. She pinned Sam to the wall, mouth wide, her eyes bleeding with a mist of hate and vengeance. "Leave me alone," she hissed, before plunging her ice-cold hand into his chest. It immediately paralyzed my great-uncle Sam, and for a moment, he thought he was gonna die. But unbelievably, the train's service whistle blew shockingly loud, startling Annalise and giving my great Uncle Sam a split second to make a move. He ripped himself from her icy grip and leapt from the train car, carefully smacking the compartment's emergency auto lock system, sealing it behind him. On the ground, he waited for Annalise to appear, knowing he didn't have enough strength left to fight her. And to be honest, the weapons they brought didn't seem to help. But she never appeared. He could hear her moaning inside the compartment, but within moments, that faded as well. He picked himself up, called for backup, and locked the entire scene down. No one gets in, no one gets out. My great Uncle Sam later submitted his mission log, and this is what it read. Compartment 13. It's not haunted. It is claimed. The ghost does not want revenge. She wants to be left alone, or she wants your soul. Anyone who enters her domain without her permission is forfeiting their life. Sadly, this is not an exorcism situation. It's a siege. It is recommended that we fully isolate the car and permanently remove it from passenger service. And to be completely honest, the whole fucking train should be dismantled. Unbelievably, despite the deaths, the incident was buried under bureaucratic silence, tucked away in the black garden files. The train still runs. Compartment 13, though sealed for a short amount of time, is now open. And every few years, the deaths return, the body count gets higher, and no one does anything about it. And at the bottom of this file, in my great Uncle Sam's handwriting, are 3 question marks scratched into the paperwork. Obviously, his way of saying that this file is not closed. The ghost of Annalise is alive and well, and one day he'll have to dance with her again. All right, fellow gardeners, I hope you enjoyed that file. I'd like to wrap up this week's episode with a short listener's mail request. Stephen from Spokane, Washington asked, "Have you ever seen a ghost?" And the answer is twice. Once, I was a teenager who had lost a friend to a terrible, terrible accident. In the following summer, I ran into his spirit on one of the playgrounds that we used to frequent when we were younger. He said nothing, but his face looked happy to see me. And the second time I saw a spirit, well, that's another story. Way too personal. But if enough people are interested, I bet I could be convinced to share it. So reach out on all my socials: TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitter, at Gardner Michael, or email me at pbgharvest@gmail.com. And of course, I would love to hear any of your stories or experiences with ghosts, phantoms. But for now, as always, this has been Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast. Season 2, The Snapdragon Files. I'm your host, Michael. And remember, monsters are real. And beware of Annalise.